The biggest surprise and biggest shocker this weekend for my money was Alabama and Florida State. Alabama, a 2 touchdown favorite, heading into Doak Campbell. They lose outright, and they lose outright by 2 touchdowns, and they got dominated in every facet of the game. This was not a good game from Alabama. And you know what? Like there's going to be there's a lot of pressure and a lot of eyes on Kalen DeBoer. In his last 10 games, he's 5-5. Losses to Vanderbilt, Tennessee, an Oklahoma team last year that was just really not good, a Michigan team in a bowl game that didn't have a lot of their players, and quite frankly, Alabama had a lot of their players for that game, and then they just lost to Florida State. And you know what? They were favorites in every one of those games, and double digits, and if not all of them, with the exception of Tennessee. Um, and he's just not shown up to the plate. And Ari Wasserman, one of my favorite CFP pundits, if you haven't heard of him, he's at On Three. He does a show, Andy and Ari. He's awesome, but he first guessed this hire when Nick Saban stepped down. Alabama hired Kalen DeBoer within like the first 48 to 72 hours, and Ari was like, "Whoa, how about we pump the brakes a little bit here? This role has been open for like 3 days to replace the greatest coach to ever walk the earth. We're just going to replace already with Kalen DeBoer, who has a track record of winning everywhere he has been, but not necessarily winning with not a lot of backbone to it. It's not like he had like 15, 20 years of experience in the power forward that he's bringing with. No, he came from some lower level schools and obviously brought Washington to the national championship. So he was a hot ticket item there, and they ended up hiring him. But it was like, whoa, holy cow, are we really hiring this guy and replacing Nick Saban in the first 3 days? So Ari Wasserman, he's been on this since the hire and had kind of questioned it. So credit to him. I think that's like kind of accurate now that it's ended up looking more and more like it was kind of a shotgun hire to replace Nick Saban here. Obviously, no one was going to expect someone to be Nick Saban again, but I don't think anyone expected 5-5 in the last 10 games with losses to teams that they were favored by double digits in almost every one. And it looks like there's just a lack of care, a lack of grit. It seems like he's just very much a player's coach, which is the antithesis of how Nick Saban operated and ran his program. And he ran it as like very, old school, bare knuckle, like, hey, we're here and we're here to win, and we're not messing around. And it does not seem like that's the approach that Kalen DeBoer is taking. So it's a bit of a shock to the Alabama program and the Alabama fan base. Now, his buyout is $70 million. So I don't think that he's going anywhere. And truthfully, I don't think Bama has the money that many people may think that they do. They are not an elite spender like the Texases and Michigans and Ohio States and Georgias of the world. They don't have that kind of money. Don't get me wrong. They are one of the wealthiest programs in the country. But they're not at that next level of spending, and I'm not sure they're going to have the money to support a $70 million buyout. I'm not suggesting that he should be fired, but it is getting to a little bit of an uncomfortable territory with him. Now, the one thing I will say is I am left with questions about both teams, because there's one side is, what if Florida State is bad? What if Florida State is bad and Bama is 9-3 again? Or what if Bama's 6-6 and Florida State is bad? Or what if Florida State's really fucking good and Bama is 9-3, or Bama is 11-1 and their only loss is their season opener? So I don't really know what to expect here, because we only have one game, one data point, one sample size of what Alabama is and what Florida State is. But I will say, if Florida State ends up being a middle-of-the-road ACC team like they have been recently, or at least last year, they were piss poor last year, let me rephrase, it's going to be very uncomfortable in Tuscaloosa. So I'm downgrading Kalen DeBoer a little bit into where I thought that he might be, but I'm very curious to see how this season plays out with him. Follow Big Body Ball CFB on all socials.